Just a moment ago, I showed you the steps that were involved to collect sales tax when you sell a vehicle to someone that lives in Ohio, an Ohio resident. You need to be aware, though, that the state of Ohio has sales tax collection agreements with the states of Arizona, California, Florida, Indiana, Massachusetts, Michigan, and South Carolina. So if you sell a vehicle to a person that lives in one of these states, you will be required to collect sales tax on those transactions as well. And the opposite would be true. Let's say, for example, you purchase a vehicle from a Michigan dealer. The Michigan dealer would collect sales tax and submit that sales tax to the state of Michigan. Then the state of Michigan would transfer that sales tax over to the state of Ohio. So when you collect sales tax from a resident of one of these 7 states, you'll collect sales tax, just transfer it to the state of Ohio as normal, like I just showed you, and then the state of Ohio will transfer that sales tax to the state that your customer lives in. So before I show you how to collect sales tax from a customer that lives in one of these sales tax collection states, we're going to need to make 2 sales tax computations. First, we're going to figure out what the customer would owe in sales tax in their home state. Then we'll figure out what the customer would owe if they actually lived in the state of Ohio and charged the lower of the 2 amounts. So we're going to compute what they would owe in their home state. We're going to compute what they would owe if they lived in the state of Ohio, and then we'll charge the lower of the 2 amounts. And you might let your customer from one of these states know they may owe additional sales or use tax when they register their vehicle in their home state. So many states charge that additional use tax when their residents purchase vehicles in other states to ensure that state is receiving the correct amount of tax on that vehicle. So, before we can do this calculation here, we're going to need to know what the other 7 states' sales tax percentages are. And remember, as we discussed a few moments ago, the state of Ohio charges 5.75% sales tax on motor vehicles. But before we do the calculations, we need to be aware if the customer's home state allows what is known as a trade-in allowance. So many states allow a trade-in allowance, and that allows a person to only pay sales tax on the difference between a purchase price and a trade-in. For example, if a person purchases a vehicle for $10,000 and gets $3,000 for a trade-in, many states only charge sales tax on the difference, which would be, for a purchase price of a vehicle with $10,000 minus the trade-in of $3,000, that would equal what we call a net price of $7,000. So many states would only charge sales tax on the difference, which is known as a sales tax allowance. I want you to be aware, the state of Ohio does not allow a trade-in allowance on used motor vehicles, okay? And we'll need to be aware of that when we are doing our calculations. So here on the screen, you see each of these other states' sales tax rates along with whether or not that state allows a trade-in allowance. And here you see those each state. So Arizona's 5.6%, California 7.5%, Florida 6%, Indiana 7%, Massachusetts 6.25%, Michigan 6%, and South Carolina is 6% as well. And there's the next column there that says whether or not they actually have trade-in allowances allowed. Okay, so I want to show you how easily you can calculate the tax that's owed through a couple scenarios. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do this and basically teach you these formulas. And then I'm just going to give you a phone number where if you want to, you can just call these in. But I really want to show you how to do this so you can avoid that phone call, if you are selling a vehicle to somebody that lives in one of these other states. Okay, so let's say on our first scenario, let's say we have sold a $10,000 vehicle to someone that lives in Indiana. Well, first let's do the Ohio calculation. Okay, so you take the purchase price of $10,000 and multiply it by Ohio's sales tax rate of 5.75%, and you'll come up with a calculated tax of $575. You see there on your screen. So now let's do the Indiana calculation. You would take the $10,000 vehicle purchase price and multiply it by the Indiana sales tax rate of 7% to equal a calculated tax of $700. So in this scenario, you would charge the Ohio calculated tax of $575, because it is the lower amount of the two. Pretty easy, don't you think? But now let's make things, just a little bit more complicated here, okay? Let's say we sell a vehicle to someone that lives in Florida and we have taken a trade-in. And now I want to remind you, the state of Florida does allow a trade-in allowance, but remember, the state of Ohio does not allow trade-in allowances on used vehicles. They only allow trade-in allowances on brand new vehicles. And since we're not selling brand new vehicles, we're used dealers, that computation will not be factored into trade-in for an Ohio resident. So we do have to keep that in mind that on that trade-in allowance. So let's go ahead and do the Ohio calculation first. So we sold a vehicle for $10,000, but we took a $3,000 trade-in. But since Ohio does not allow a trade-in allowance on used vehicles, the entire taxable amount is still $10,000. So you would multiply $10,000 by Ohio's tax rate of 5.75%. And once again, you're going to come up with that calculated tax of $575. Now, let's do the Florida calculation. And remember, Florida does allow a trade-in allowance for their residents. So we're going to take the $10,000 purchase price of the vehicle. You're going to subtract the $3,000 vehicle that we just took as a trade-in, which shows a $3,000 trade-in allowance. So you take $10,000 minus $3,000. Remember, the $10,000 purchase price of the vehicle minus the $3,000 trade-in is going to equal $7,000. And you'll take the $7,000 and multiply it by Florida's tax rate of 6%, which will equal a calculated tax of $420, which is the lower of the two. So on this transaction, you would charge the Florida tax rate of $420, the lower of the two. So, if I've confused you with these scenarios, well, that certainly, was not my intent, but I would strongly encourage you to learn all those formulas that you see right there in your manual. So they have formulas for every single state. So you can figure these up when you have sold a vehicle to someone that lives in one of these states. Or if you don't quite understand these, when you sell a vehicle to someone that lives in one of these states, then you can simply call 888-405-4039. Once again, that's 888-405-4039. And you can tell them the home state of the customer along with the selling price of the vehicle, and they will tell you the exact amount that you should charge. But I do want to encourage you, like I said, to learn those formulas so you can avoid making that call and you can calculate these taxes and understand them on your own. So just remember, we'll figure out the sales tax they owe in their home state versus the sales tax they would owe they lived in the state of Ohio, and then charge the lower of the two. So, I've showed you how to charge sales tax when your customer lives in the state of Ohio. That's Ohio residents. I've also showed you how to charge sales tax when you sell a vehicle that lives in one of the 7 states that the state of Ohio has sales tax collection agreements with. But what do we do? Let's say, for example, if you sell a vehicle to someone that lives in the state of Kentucky or Pennsylvania or Texas or some other state that we do not have sales tax collection agreements with, well, in those scenarios, we would not charge sales tax. However, if we sell a vehicle to someone that lives in another state and we do not charge sales tax, then we're going to need to complete our next required document, okay? And this is referred to as an out-of-state sales tax exemption form. So you are required by state law to complete this form whenever you sell a vehicle to someone that lives in another state and you did not collect sales tax. And, so you will fill this out if you've sold a vehicle to a person that lives in another state. And just remember that, as a running total for all the documents that we've talked about that are going to be completed on every single transaction, remember, we have a bill of sale. We have an odometer disclosure statement. Remember, if there was a minor involved, we're going to have that minor consent form. And if you sell a vehicle to a person that lives in another state and you did not collect sales tax, then you must complete this out-of-state sales tax exemption form that you see here. So like I said, I'm going to keep that running total on your required documents, and very easily at the end of the class, we'll go right down a little list here and show you what docs to use on absolutely every single transaction. So I do want to give you some great contact information here. If you ever have any questions about sales tax collections, you can contact the Department of Taxation, and that's going to be 614-338-4781. Once again, that's 614-338-4781. You can also call them toll free, 877-644-6771. They are a wealth of information regarding the collection of sales tax. So don't ever hesitate to use these resources. And by the way, I've called technical support phone numbers, all over the state. And sometimes you wait on hold for a little while, but I want you to be aware, if you have sales tax collection questions, then you call one of these numbers and they're probably going to answer, on the first or second ring, because no matter what, you as a vendor, they want you to know exactly how to collect your sales tax correctly, because that is revenue, not only for your city and county, but big revenue for the state. So if you have any questions about sales tax at any time, call one of these numbers here, and they will certainly walk you through any scenarios that you might have. Now, I want to show you a very important component in the operation of your Ohio dealership, and that is reporting the sales tax you have collected to the state, which are known as your mandatory sales tax collection reports. These are called sales tax reports. Now, you're considered a vendor of the state because you're collecting sales tax on the motor vehicles you sell. Therefore, you're considered a vendor. Well, every vendor that collects sales tax for the state must complete a sales tax report to report the sales tax you have collected for the state. Okay, so there are two ways you can do your sales tax reports. You can easily file your sales tax report online at the Ohio Business Gateway, which I will show you here in just a moment. And by the way, if you're filing through the Business Gateway, it can be done with just a few clicks of your mouse. And I'll show you that here in just a moment. Or if for some reason you're not comfortable filing your sales tax collection reports online, you can do what's known as a telefile, and you can actually file your sales tax reports via phone. But that is a much longer, time-consuming process. I want you to be aware of that. But you can file via phone. And if for some reason you do want to file via phone, you can call 800-697-0440. Once again, that's 800-697-0440. And you'll be able to telefile. But I want to show you, in my opinion, the easier route of the two by filing your sales tax reports right on the Ohio Business Gateway. Okay, so remember, this is the same website that we applied for our vendor's license on just a little bit ago. So what you're going to do here, since we've already got an account on the Ohio Business Gateway, you can just enter your username and your password there to easily log on. And on the next screen, as you recall previously, we applied for our county vendor's license. Remember at the very top link there, we applied for the vendor's license. Well, now we want to click on the Sales Tax UST1 button because we are filing a sales tax report. So click on that button that says Sales Tax UST1. Okay, so we'll do that. And the first thing we need to do is choose your account number there. Okay, and if you have only one business, say for example, your dealership that is collecting sales tax for the state, then you will just have one account number to select from. However, if you have more than one business that collects sales tax for the state, you will need to make sure that you select the account that you set up for your dealership. Okay, then you're easily going to select your filing year, which will more than likely be the current year, unless you're, say, for example, filing a December report in January, then that might show the previous year. Okay, then you're going to select the filing period, and we'll go over filing dates here in just a moment. So you're going to click that little next there, okay? And before we move on to the next screen, in the taxable sales box, you're going to include the tax base that's indicated on the receipt issued by the clerk of courts and your total sales from parts, accessories, and labor. And this is a PDF that you get every single time that you complete an online title application through the Title Gateway. Okay, so I want you to be aware of that. In the tax liability box, you will enter the amount of sales tax collected. Okay, so you do not include taxes that were paid to the clerk of courts in case you did order a title right in to your BMV office. And I want to remind you, everyone, you can always log right back onto this video. Maybe the first time that you're doing a sales tax report, just go right back to ohiodealer.com and click on course videos there, and you'll be able to watch this, and you can fast forward or repeat it or whatever that you need to do. Okay, so next, you see your tax information screen, and I want to explain each one of these boxes, starting at the top, like I said, you actually hit the tax base there. Okay. Include tax base indicated on the receipt issued by the clerk of courts and your total sales from parts, accessories, and labor. I want to explain that again. Right there at the very top in gross sales, you will include the tax base that's indicated on the receipt from your clerk of courts and your total sales from parts, accessories, and labor. So include all sales not subject to sales tax and motor vehicle sales receipts from the Ohio Clerk of Courts refund applications as well. So you do not include sales of watercraft or outboard motors, to non-residents as well. So also, you see that exempt box right there. You see where it says exempt sales. Now, when we're entering exempt sales, you're going to include vehicles that are not subject to the sales tax. Okay, but this is going to be limited to interstate commerce sales or anything that is covered by tax exemption certificates. So automatically what you're going to do here, once you enter that gross sales and it's possibly subtract any exempt sales, and you're going to see an equal there that says sales upon, it'll show your exact total upon that next scenario there. So just always remember those exempt sales are going to be the ones, say for example, if you sold a vehicle to a church or something like that. So what's going to happen here, the gross sales will automatically minus your exempt sales. Okay, so it's pretty automated here. Once you're doing all this, it's going to go step by step. But when all this information is completed, then you're just going to check that little next box right there. And then you are basically going to see a summary of all the sales tax that you have reported. Okay, so it's very easy to do. And by the way, if you ever have any questions, during this process, you can easily contact your clerk of courts title office and they'll walk you through on the phone, because anytime that you're filing all this, via online, you're, definitely going to be saving them some time. So you just want to take a look at this confirmation page right here and make sure that everything looks correct. Double check your figures, triple check your figures, and be sure everything looks accurate. And then you're going to click the accept box right there. And now you're done. So now you can just print up this confirmation as proof that you have filed your sales tax return. Once you have done this a couple of times, you're going to be filing your sales tax reports very easily with just a few clicks of the mouse. Okay, so remember, something else that you need to be aware of is when your sales tax reports are due. So, you must file sales tax payments by the 23rd day of the month for the tax that's collected during the preceding month. So, for example, if you collected sales tax for 9 vehicles you sold during the month of October, all sales tax that you have collected must be reported to the state of Ohio by November 23rd. See how that works? So if you collected sales tax for vehicles you sold in November, then the sales tax must be reported to the state before December 23rd. So you're always going to do your sales tax reports for one specific month before the 23rd of the following month. So if the taxes you collected amount to less than $1,200 in a 6-month period, you may file your sales taxes every 6 months, but you should be fully expecting to collect much more than $1,200 every 6 months. Since we're selling motor vehicles, there may be times when you collect more than $1,200 in sales tax on a single vehicle. So we are very, very large sales tax generators, and you should plan on filing your tax payments before the 23rd of each month. Okay, so do keep that in mind. Now, I also want to remind you that you are a vendor for the state. So state law does require you file your sales tax reports in a timely manner. So what happens? Let's say, for example, you forgot to file your mandatory sales tax reports. Well, the state will send you friendly little reminders that we call fines. Okay, so you will get fined if you forget to do your sales tax reports. So you will receive fines whenever you fail to file a mandatory sales tax report in a timely manner. And, I want you to be aware, if you are a repeat offender and you have failed to file sales tax reports on multiple occasions, the state may revoke your vendor's license. And if you do not have a vendor's license, you may not have a dealer's license. So if you fail to file your sales tax reports in a timely manner, you will lose your dealer's license. So we certainly don't want that to happen. Being vendors of the state, we are required to report our sales tax collections in a timely manner.